It's the truck, Kramer. The truck!
Look, Newman, I told you to let this thing go.
No. Listen to me. Most days, the post office sends 1 truckload of mail to the 2nd Domestic Regional Sorting Facility in Saginaw, Michigan. But on the week before holidays, we see a surge. On Valentine's Day, we send 2 trucks. On Christmas, 4, packed to the brim. And tomorrow, if history is any guide, we'll see some spillover into a 5th truck.
Mother's Day.
The mother of all mail days. Guess who signed up for the truck?
A free truck? Oh, boy, that completely changes our cost structure. Our G&A goes down 50%.
We carry a couple of bags of mail and the rest is ours.
Newman, you magnificent bastard, you did it!
Let the collecting begin!
But I don't want to be a
secondary character.
Hello, Ivan.
Hello, Steve.
We're a Seinfeld podcast out of Melbourne, Australia, and every week we take a random episode of Seinfeld and examine the secondary characters from that episode. And this week we're doing our last two-parter, and I would say a classic, The Bottle Deposit from Season 7.
Yeah, episodes 21 and 22 of that season. And Stephen, I have in my notes here that I feel like if Seinfeld ever did a movie, like, you know how a lot of TV shows did movies in the 90s, like Beavis and Butthead, and well, later on The Simpsons in the 2000s, they'd have like their own movie. I feel like if Seinfeld did like a feature-length film in the cinema, this would be the episode, I reckon. It was just like, there was so many different genres at play. There was like comedy, there was kind of like thriller, a bit of mystery. I don't know, it was like a hodgepodge of genres.
Yeah, I would say this or The Trip, maybe, because that's, a cross-country adventure. But I know what you mean by this, feeling more like a movie, a movie style than a typical 22-minute sitcom.
Yeah, it was just written very, very differently. I don't know, there's just a lot of moving parts, and it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, and the way it all comes together at the end is brilliant as well.
Yeah, it was very well done. It was just different to other ones that we've reviewed.
That's right. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at bidwabastpodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. We even have a Discord. I don't think anyone is actually on the Discord, but if you want to join a black hole, go ahead. You can listen to all of our previous podcasts on whatever app you choose. And if you want to help us out, that would be awesome. If you could rate us or review us, it really helps us out with visibility and spreading the word. And you can support us financially too.
That's right. On Patreon, for a couple of bucks a month, you do get bonus content, including podcasts Season 11 and Curbcast. And you can also do one-off payments to PayPal if you're not so inclined with subscriptions. So, and speaking of reviews, Stephen, we actually got a really good review on Apple Podcasts the other day. I'll read that out. Thank you very much to Sandra D. She's from the US, I assume she, because her name's Sandra. The title of her review, her 5-star review, was Best of Seinfeld, and she says, "These two are excellent and very, very funny. Love their Seinfeldisms and just how they relate to each other, and good voices to listen to, and it's a guaranteed laugh. A great escape from the world today." So they're very kind words, so thank you, Sandra.
Yeah, if you're listening to this one, thank you so much. It was really, really nice to listen to, especially because we've spent so much time talking about how we hope that, our 45-minute podcast per week brings you a tiny bit of joy in an otherwise grim 12 months. So that was very nice to read. Thank you.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
And finally, we do have a Seinfeld Facebook group. It's a bigger Seinfeld community online. It's called Seinfeldisms. We're over 130,000 members now. So check that out on Facebook. Lots of cool little things coming up. And we also do a weekly section called Seinfeldisms, which is the namesake of the Facebook group I just mentioned. And we talk about any interaction between Seinfeld and the real world that's happened in the last week. Has any happened to you?
No, not unlike last week where I had a really awesome one regarding my fiance and her door exercises, like Morty. Unfortunately, none this week, bud. What about you?
Yeah, 0 for me this week, actually. It's the first blank week in quite a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. It's been blank for both of us. We're both shooting blanks when it comes to Seinfeldisms.
We are. So only one piece of Seinfeld news this week, and it would have been really, really awesome and a great coincidence if this happened last week. But in the latest episode of the Sarah Silverman podcast, obviously Sarah Silverman's podcast, she talked about how Michael Richards, who plays Kramer, went off at her on the set when she guested in the episode that we did last week called The Money. So she played Kramer's lover. She wants affection and, a bit of cuddling after sex, and Kramer's not really too keen.
Because she has the Jimmy legs.
She has the Jimmy legs, and eventually she actually becomes keen on Kramer's, idea of sleeping alone after sex. And we actually, when we did the trivia for last week's episode, we did talk about how it was reported that Michael Richards actually went off at Sarah Silverman because she couldn't get a line down. So the line itself was, "It's probably the wind," but apparently Silverman kept on saying, "It's probably the rain." So she kept making that mistake. And I didn't actually catch the podcast. I will try and listen to it before next week so I can sort of get a bit more in detail. But this article that I'm reading from says, and this is a quote directly from Silverman on the podcast. She said, "This guy, Michael Richards, breaks character and just starts ripping me a new asshole. He points to the window and he goes, 'Do you see that rain in that window? Do you see rain in that window?' And I said, 'No.' And he said, 'Then why did you say rain? It's not rain. There's no rain in that window. The line is wind.'"
There you go.
Yeah, so he wasn't too happy about it. I would imagine that he was maybe having a bad day in general, and this was just the final straw. I mean, it doesn't excuse doing that, but I don't think he was an asshole in general. But Sarah said again during the podcast episode that when Richards went off at her, that she got a lump in her throat, and she was thinking later on that she was going to basically walk from the set, and she thought, "Fuck this guy! Nobody calls him on his shit because he's Kramer from Seinfeld," and he, because he walks through the door and gets a standing ovation. So
Jesus,
yeah. So it goes on. She returned to the set the next day to film another scene with Richards. This one set in a diner. I can't remember that scene.
Oh, yeah. That's the one where they're talking about the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I can remember. So Richards, when they were filming that scene, tried to make small talk with her, between shoots.
Takes.
Between takes, and as if nothing had happened. And she got a bit pissed off at that because she felt a bit dismissed. And apparently she cut him off as he was just making small talk and said, "I don't give a fuck." And he was shocked, actually. So, she was shocked the day before. And her going off at him, he was shocked, and he didn't really know what to say.
Oh, geez.
And she basically said to him, "You don't talk to me like that and then act like nothing has happened. I'm not going to be one of those people that joins in and acts like nothing has happened. That was shitty behavior." And she said that in the end, Richards accepted her criticism, and that sort of opened the door for them to remain friendly for the remainder of time on set and the episode. So,
okay.
And then they became sort of casual and friendly. And he would actually even call her sometimes just to catch up and say hello.
Well, fair enough. Well, Michael is a very forgiving person. I mean, we have seen him with angry outbursts online, and, he's atoned for it. So he gets angry, but then he's forgiven, or he forgives, he gets forgiven for it by his actions.
Yeah. I think he accepts, people's criticism. He's not arrogant or stubborn to the point where he doesn't think he deserves criticism. So, yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't excuse, talking down to a co-star, especially over something so trivial, just forgetting one line. And I mean, that's the nature of acting. You forget your lines, you get flustered, you make mistakes. It should just be laughed off. But, again, maybe Michael was having a bad day, but, all's well that ends well. They became friends in the end. Yeah,
well, there you go. Well, that still doesn't excuse, like you said, Michael's behavior, but at least he got better.
Yeah, he was, like I said, he wasn't so sort of egotistical that he didn't listen to her. And, sometimes, I mean, I've been guilty of this before where you act like a bit of a jerk, or you might say something that bothers someone and you don't even realize, because you're so caught up in whatever's bothering you, you don't even realize that you've offended someone or upset someone. And then it's not until that person says, "Hey, what you did wasn't okay." And then you snap out of it and you go, "Oh shit, I'm really sorry." And then, it's all good from there. So, a bit of humility and a bit of respect from Michael goes a long way.
We're all human after all.
That's it. And like I said, only one piece of news this week. So, short and sharp Seinfeld news for the week.
Okay, very good. And I'll have to listen to the Sarah Silverman podcast.
Yeah, no, I really like Sarah Silverman, and I didn't even realize she had a podcast, so I'd be keen to listen anyway, but I really want to listen to this episode, and, I'm imagining she probably even talks more about her time on Seinfeld, and this was just the sort of the juicy bit that got reported on, so we'll both try and listen to it before next week, and maybe we can, break it down a bit.
We'll see. Was she interviewing someone?
I don't know. I didn't actually listen to the episode. I'm just quoting what she said. I mean, it's like, based on the way that this article is written, it's like she was talking to someone on the podcast, but maybe she has a regular guest, or maybe she had another actor and they talked about Seinfeld. Don't know, but we'll have to listen and find out.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, let's take a really quick break, my friend, and when we come back, we're talking about some secondary characters from season 7 two-parter, The Bottle Deposit, our very last two-part episode for the entire podcast series. We're getting really close to the end. We only have about 8 episodes to go, so not many episodes remaining on the podcast, so we'll be back and talk about those.
Hello, folks. Matt McCoy here, a.k.a. Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld, and I'm telling you right now, I do not want to be a secondary character.
Two-part episode The Bottle Deposit was Season 7, Episodes 21 and 22. First aired in the US on May 2nd, 1996, directed by Andy Ackerman and written by Greg Cavett and Andy Robin. In this two-part episode, Kramer and Newman scheme to make money on recycling by taking a mail truck to Michigan full of bottles and cans. But their road trip takes a turn for the worst when Jerry's car is stolen by a psychotic auto mechanic named Tony Abado, played by Brad Garrett, and they track Jerry's car out in the Midwest. Elaine outbids Sue Ellen Mischke, Brenda Strong, by doubling her budget for JFK's golf clubs and leaves them in Jerry's car. George gets a project from his boss Wilhelm, played by Richard Hurd, but he doesn't hear the other end of what he's supposed to do. Steinbrenner sees the results of George's project and has him committed to a mental hospital. And other secondary characters in the episode, John O'Hurley, of course, as J. Peterman. Patrick Kerr plays the Forge Clerk at the Yankees. Rance Howard plays the farmer. Karen Lynn Scott plays his daughter Susie. And a couple of appearances from other characters or secondary characters we have featured on the show. Mary Jo Keenan as Dina Lazari for the final time, and Sandy Ward plays Pop Lazari, her father. So that rounds out the subplot with George and Dina, and George questioning, George not being insane but looking insane in front of her.
Yeah, always a series of unfortunate coincidences for George where he, like you said, according to her, he's always just losing his mind and ranting and raving about some, weird situation. But just a series of bad luck for George.
Yeah, and it closes off, it closes off that arc, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, it was a nice touch, Yeah, no, I liked it.
Yeah, for sure. So a bit of trivia about the episode, my friend. This was actually a life-changing episode for Wayne Knight, who played Newman.
Yeah, no, I'm just reading that trivia. So he basically lost weight after this episode. So in the scenes where he was running through the cornfield, on set when he was filming, he started experiencing heart palpitations, and that prompted him to go to his doctor. And, his doctor said his blood pressure was very high, and he was really, really close to developing diabetes. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and soon after that, he, changed his lifestyle. I imagine changed his diet, probably went to the gym, and, got a lot healthier. And you do notice that from season 8 and 9, he is much slimmer.
Oh, yeah. He's not as rotund as he was in earlier episodes or earlier seasons, yeah.
Yeah, no, and good on him for, losing weight's not easy. And, I would say that, the bigger you are, the harder it is to lose weight. So good on Wayne for doing it and keeping it up, because he's still a lot slimmer even to this day.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah, no, he does. And it's pretty common for people to lose a lot of weight and then slowly regain it. But Wayne, has remained relatively healthy, for the last 20 or so years. So yeah, good on him.
If our season 10 and 11 of Seinfeld, our bonus podcasts, ever became into fruition and they had to bring back Wayne Knight, they probably put it on a fat suit and put putty around his head, his face. Play Newman.
Yeah, look, I think Wayne Knight, what Newman is Newman because of who he is, not because of what he looks like. So I reckon he could get away with, if our season 10 and 11 were made into a real show, he would
Netflix, where are you?
He would still be the conniving Newman, whether he was big or slim.
Okay, fair enough. They'd incorporate it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, good on Wayne. Yeah, it was crazy how after that episode he realised he had to do something, and he did.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it takes, a health scare to really, make you realise what's at stake. So
yeah, exactly. I've got trivia about a first and a last in this episode. This is the first episode to depict one of the main characters using a cell phone, which Kramer uses in the mail truck. And this is Larry David's last voiceover as George Steinbrenner while running the show. And he continued to voice him in season 8 and 9.
Yeah, that's right. So everyone knows at the end of season 7, Larry David stepped back and it was just Jerry running the show for the last couple of seasons. Thus the change of tone into a bit more of a wacky, surreal vibe. Yeah, and Larry was nice enough to stick around and voice Steinbrenner, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he was, he's irreplaceable as Steinbrenner, the way he accentuates everything is just magnificent. You can't replace that. It'd be too jarring if you got another actor.
It's iconic, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's all the trivia I had, bud. What about you?
I've just got one more. It's not a trivia point about the episode per se, but in a funny situation of life imitating art, there was actually a 15-person operation that was busted for illegally smuggling millions of beverage containers from other states and depositing them in Michigan.
Oh, my God.
The cops actually, I guess, raided the mastermind or, wherever it was running out of. They found over $500,000 in cash. But unlike Kramer and Newman's scheme, the operation sold cans to the merchants at a discount who then redeemed them for full value. So, a bit complex.
Yeah, that sounds very complex, trying to get selling the cans to the merchants at a discount and then redeeming them for full value. So it sounds like maybe the merchants got a cut as well. They were in on it as well.
Yeah, I guess it's the more complicated something is, the harder it is to crack by law enforcement. So, sometimes complexity, even though it's more complex, it makes it easier to hide in plain sight, I guess.
Yeah.
And just my final bit of trivia, it's kind of related to what I just talked about. It's actually prohibited. I don't know if it was prohibited at the time. Maybe the bottle deposit racket that I just mentioned changed the law, but apparently it's prohibited in Michigan to return bottles out of state, and also the maximum you get for bottle returns in one go is $25. So if Kramer and Newman actually return the bottles now, I think they said that they have around $1,000 worth of bottels, because they said they have 10,000 bottles at 10 cents, which is about $1,000, and that would take about 40 individual trips to at $25 a pop, which would not be worthwhile at all.
And Kramer and Newman had the free mail truck, but they'd only make like $1,000 off the trip.
Well, yeah,
it's not a lot.
Each. I mean, it's
it's all right, but it's a lot of effort though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full day. I think they spend the full day collecting bottles. It's probably a 2-day return trip. It's a day. It kind of implies that they leave in morning and they drive into the night. They probably go to the bottle return first thing in the morning, dump the bottles, get their cash, and drive home. So it's probably like 3 full days of work and driving. Plus they would have had to pay for maybe a motel or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, $500 in American dollars in the mid-90s was maybe $1,000 now, which
probably, $800. Yeah,
$900, which isn't the worst. That's fine. But I think for Kramer and Newman, it's more about the actual scheme than the money. Like, the money is obviously they want to cover their costs and make a bit of money, but the scheme itself is part of the actual the reason for doing it. Just to get away with it.
Because Kramer dismisses the whole thing. You think that Kramer would be really keen on it, but he's like, no, I've done the numbers and it's just not worth our while.
Yeah. And I mean, even if the profit wasn't $500, I think they'd still be keen on doing it because it's the joy of actually getting away with the scheme more so, or just as much as the money itself.
A couple of buddies dropping off some cans and bottles in another state.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That could have been the Seinfeld movie itself, Kramer and Newman, on their road trip, and they go through different things. That could have been a spin-off.
Yeah, I think for a movie it would have to incorporate the core 4. But,
definitely.
If they could somehow write it so that they all had to go on the road trip, or they were all heading down to Michigan for different reasons, or maybe they were already down there. Maybe Jerry was at a show and then Kramer met up with them, or I don't know. There's something to work with there.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, shall we talk about some secondary characters, bud?
Sure.
Let's talk about Tony. He's played by Brad Garrett. He's most famous for playing Robert in your favorite sitcom, Steve. Everybody Loves Raymond.
Fuck that.
Sorry, your second favorite. Seinfeld's your favorite, of course. No, your third favorite. Frasier's number 2, and then Raymond's number 3, right?
No, I'd say that it goes Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Friends, then Frasier.
Oh, wow. Okay, I thought you were a huge fan of Frasier.
I am. I'm being sarcastic.
Okay. Oh, you were.
I don't like Everybody Loves Raymond, and I don't like Friends.
Fair enough. It's hard to tell sarcasm when we do remote recordings. I can't see your sarcastic face.
That's true. Actually, I would say that equally I hate 2.5 Men. And,
that's bad.
And what's the one with the nerds?
Oh, Big Bang Theory, yeah.
Big Bang Theory, they're both just,
if
you're listening to this and you're a fan of it, that's totally fine. It's not a judgment against anyone who does.
Of course not.
They're just not for me.
Yeah, you like Seinfeld, so obviously it all balances out. I mean, if you like Big Bang Theory and Seinfeld, you kind of, it's even Steven.
Yeah, actually, totally unrelated, but I think I made a recommendation last week for a good podcast called Hunting Ghislaine, but I just started a new show this week. Never heard of it before. I just wanted to watch a comedy series, and I picked it randomly off Netflix. It's called Superstore.
Yeah, I've been watching that too.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's very good. I mean, the first couple episodes are a bit like but then it gets better. Like as the season 1, I'm almost at the end of season 1, but I like how the episodes. I think from like episode 4 on, they get better. Yeah, there's like more character development, and they really go to town. So Superstore's really good. Yeah, I like it so far.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I've gotten up to about season 4, I think, maybe even season 5.
Sweet.
Kaylee, my partner, and I smashed it over the weekend.
Sweet.
It's so easy to watch. Each episode's like 21 minutes. It's just...
I know. It's short. It's good.
You breeze through them. And season 3 and 4 are just... Like, season 1's great. 2's great. Season 3 and 4 are just another level.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I got to finish season 1 and then get on to season 2 so I can get to the really good seasons. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're after a new comedy, I think it started around 2015, 2016, Superstore. It's basically about a bunch of workers who the manager considers a family in just like a
big box retailer, like a Walmart style shop.
In St. Louis. And it's just about it's a bit of a commentary on like low paid workers in America and minimum wage and poverty. And, it's got a bit of social commentary, but it is hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's very good so far.
For sure. Anyway, back to Seinfeld. Seinfeld. Let's talk about Tony.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, Tony, played by Brad Garrett, like I said, I describe him as a car Nazi.
Yeah, that's a fair description.
Best way to put it. I mean, he's so obsessed with every detail of the car, and he treats the car like it's a person.
Yeah, but I mean, even to treat a person the way he treats a car is a bit psychotic as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, if he was, say, a personal trainer or, or something like that, he'd want the best nutrients to go into his clients' bodies and to do the right things for them, and everything's got to be optimal. And he almost like personifies every vehicle he services.
Yeah, like the detective said, who we will talk about a bit later. He develops a very deep and volatile, I guess you would say, emotional attachment to the car, to the point where he feels that the owner of the car is no longer the right person to look after it. Only he can do that. Almost like a bit of a car god complex.
Almost.
Why do you think, how do you think he got to that point where he's so, I mean, fair enough, he's really into cars and he really wants, he obviously loves his job, and he has really high standards when it comes to how he thinks people should look after their cars, which is, I guess, good if you're a mechanic. But where you're willing to steal a car and drive it interstate purely because you don't like the standard in which it's kept by one of your customers, that's just crazy stuff. How do you think he got to that point?
I think it's probably, I think he probably eventually snapped and Jerry happened to be the customer. I feel like with Tony, he's been around cars his whole life. Like maybe his dad was a mechanic or his granddad, and he's always been around them. And maybe the shop he works at used to be his dad's, and, maybe he took it over and he's probably like the owner/mechanic. And I feel like maybe he's sick of people, not looking after their cars enough, putting in like that cheap oil from like those quick lube places. And he's just sick of seeing cars being mistreated. And then Jerry, he understood that Jerry's car has never really been well maintained. And I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and he just snapped. Yeah,
no, I think that was sort of where I was thinking too, where, when he first got into, being a mechanic, maybe after high school or something like that, he's always been obsessed, but just slowly over time he's been worn down by the bad, what he sees as the bad attitude and the lack of care from his customers. He can't abide the fact that he has such high standards and his customers either don't care or don't understand or don't think it's as important. And what I think it is that made him snap wasn't Jerry's car per se, but it was Jerry's rejection of him. He takes that personally because Jerry says to him, "I just want to take it somewhere else." And I think that particular, slight, according to Tony, even though Jerry is perfectly, in the right to just say, you know what, forget it, I'm going to take my car to the other mechanic. I think that personal rejection, as well as the car, is what tipped him over the edge.
Yeah, because he doesn't like being rejected by customers.
Yeah, he's got, it's wound up in an obsessive compulsive sort of personality.
Yes.
Yeah, very psychotic, very just not a very emotionally stable or emotionally healthy man.
and I believe the cops caught him eventually, because I think Jerry gets his car back, or he's got to get another car.
Yeah, it is implied later on that he does get another car, but I imagine he would have been caught. I mean, he was sort of driving with no destination in mind. I think he was just driving as a form of almost like liberation. He's like, I'm going to get away from the misery that is, the constant disappointment of his customers at the mechanic shop, and he's just going to drive and drive and drive and drive, and eventually, that's got to come to an end.
Yeah, and apparently it's a common thing because the Detective McMahon, he says it's quite common for mechanics to snap and steal cars.
I wonder if Tony's ever gotten in trouble before.
I love how, like, with the car, how there's the scene where they pull up the car, they pull the tarp off over the car, and then it looks like they're looking at a dead body. Yeah. They make it out to be like Tony's a serial killer. Yeah, maybe he has like a record. Maybe he has a record of like damaging someone's car, or like with serial killers, how they they kill little animals, or they'll assault someone before they do their killing. There's always like a prior crime, maybe a bit of arson or something. So maybe Tony's has had some misdemeanors or some low level crimes to his name before he stole the car.
Yeah, I wonder if it's almost like a what comes to mind is you talking about that is because it's sort of funny that he is really upset with Jerry and his lack of care, or what he thinks the level of care should be, but he drives it to the point where he does damage it. It's so damaged that Jerry has to buy a new car. which is completely at odds with him wanting to look after the car and treat it as well as it possibly can be treated. Maybe he thinks it's almost like a possessive partner, where if someone breaks up with someone who's really possessive, they begin stalking them because they think, well, if I can't have them, no one can have them, and they try and break them down because they just can't tolerate the fact that they've been rejected. It's almost like that mentality of like, if Jerry can't look after his car, or if no one can look after their car, then no one deserves these cars. So I'm just going to write them off.
Yeah, write them off. Well, I felt like the car was personified, like the car was like, say, a child or, someone in Jerry's, like who's supposed to be in Jerry's care. But then Tony, thought that maybe the car being like the child, Jerry wasn't looking after it the way it should. So he feels like he should be responsible and do it. But then he becomes so obsessed that it becomes his undoing. And then eventually he damages the car. He does the opposite of what he wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I think it's more of a case of, well, if I can't have the car, or if I can't keep the car to the standards I want to, then no one will be able to, because I'm going to destroy it.
It's quite tragic, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. It's also it'd be quite frustrating and upsetting for Jerry and anyone else who's done it to.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I said at the start of the episode, this episode has like everything. It's got a bit of action. It's got a bit of mystery. It's like a thriller. A bit of drama. It was quite a hodgepodge of different genres.
Yeah, a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah. So it was like a bit of like an action sequence with Kramer chasing Tony down with the mail truck. Yeah, it had everything.
Yeah, no, good. Good mixed bag. I like it. Yeah. Do you have anything else about Tony?
No, but this is the only episode he's in, would you believe? I thought he was in like another episode, but I believe this was the only one.
Maybe we're just thinking of Putty, another intense with a deep voice.
Yeah, but unlike Tony, Putty has like he's good-hearted, so he wouldn't like damage the car or steal it.
Yeah, I mean, Putty's kind of intense and full on, but he's also quite a chill dude as well.
Yeah, he's a very chill dude, and he's very honest too. Like, when Jerry brings his car into him, he's an honest mechanic and he offers a good price, to get it fixed. Tony's just, he's much more intense, and he shouldn't be in the job. He should be in jail.
Yeah, well, I was going to say maybe in the facility that George ends up in.
Oh, maybe, yeah. They become friends before George gets bailed out.
Yeah, I don't think Tony's a bad person. I mean, he does bad things, stealing a car because you don't think that the car owner is taking good enough care of it is it's not very good.
It's psychotic.
But, I don't think he's an evil person. I just think he needs some mental health help.
And I hope he got the health that he deserved, or the help that he deserved like George did.
Yeah, I hope he got a tune-up.
A tune-up as well, yes. A
mental tune.
An oil change.
Yeah. A full... I mean, given his level of, craziness, probably needs a full engine rebuild more than just a
I think so. Yeah, just rip out the engine and just put a brand new one in.
Yeah, a tune-up is like, if you're a bit mentally exhausted or a bit depressed, you go for a nice holiday for a week and you feel refreshed and you come back and you're like, oh, yeah, that was a tune-up. But a total engine rebuild is like, all right, you need to go to a clinic for 2 years, be broken down, and rebuilt as a human. I think he's more in that category.
Yeah, and then he reformed.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, should we talk about the Forge Clerk at payroll at the Yankees?
Yeah, sounds good.
He's played by Patrick Kerr. He's appeared in 4 episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm. He played a blind man, I think, in season 4 or 5, which we haven't done yet for Curbcast. We've only done the first 3 seasons at this point.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this, we will be, a few weeks before this podcast ends, we will be starting we have actually done, like Ivan said, season 1, 2, and 3 of Curbcast, but we will be launching it as its own fresh podcast and its own feed, starting from season 1, episode 1 again. So, keep an eye out on that, and we will be talking a bit more about that as we come to the end of Bibbleblask.
For sure. So you'll still hear us after the end of this podcast. You'll hear us on another one.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, Forge Clerk. I mean, I feel like he's got really low self-esteem. I feel like he's probably been in the job in payroll for a very long time, and he's never really tried to advance or move careers. I feel like he's probably, he just does his job and he doesn't really have too much pride in it. And he's in a way, he's probably just too comfortable to change jobs, and or he just has, the fear of trying to make change.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He does have a kind of a stuck energy about him. He's just been there for forever, and he's just the payroll clerk and he's happy doing that. Might be a bit bored, might be a bit depressed, but he obviously doesn't have enough, whether the job itself creates his low self-esteem or the low self-esteem, makes it so that he doesn't have the confidence to promote himself or to request a promotion or go for a different job. Don't know. But I agree with you totally.
Yeah, and he gets very whiny, when he gets the call from Wilhelm's office about the project. And then George is like, tell me what happened. And he gets really whiny. He's like, oh, I already made the other phone call, And he gets, how he gets like his voice gets higher in that last line. Yeah. So he just, it's all part of his low self-esteem.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a bit of a baby.
Yeah, a bit of a baby. Yeah. It's funny how like he's told on the phone what the project is and he just doesn't tell George. And George is still stuck.
Just going on the idea of him having low self-esteem, I think he's aware of George Costanza. Maybe he's had a run-in with him in the past, or maybe he's just aware of him, just through the grapevine. But I think he thought, because he got a bit, what's the word, a bit authoritative, I guess, when George said, I'm just going to go in here and have a look around. And he kind of stood over him and he said, you're not allowed back here. He was very, possessive of his little office.
Possessiveness is a theme in this episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah. Maybe he thought that, because George is a weak character as well, maybe he was aware of that's who George was. So he thought, for a bit of a confidence boost, I'll try and, stand over this guy. And it wasn't until Wilhelm said, set him straight that he became a bit whiny.
Yeah. I feel like he probably just gets pushed around a lot, especially with like, executives at the Yankees, even players, because obviously he's responsible for everyone's salaries, including players. He's probably had lots of run-ins with players who are like, where's my pay? Or, this is my contract. Why didn't I get this? And he's like, oh shit, I'm getting confronted by some big burly batter. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Do you have anything else about him?
No, he's only in one scene. And he gets told of the plan and the project, but doesn't relay it to George. And that adds to George's downward spiral.
It was actually pretty ingenious of George to, get the payroll clerk to have him call Wilhelm, have the plan told to him, just so he could get it repeated back to him. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't work out, but it's a pretty crafty idea to get, the information he's seeking.
Yeah, but unfortunately, he upset the Forge Clerk and he didn't tell George what happened. And George was still under a mystery.
Yeah, no, backfired.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about, which character should we talk about next?
Why don't we talk about, I've got a few notes on the Auctioneer if you do.
Okay. Yeah, well, I didn't get his acting credit, but I guess he just auctions, high-end things. I'm guessing it's like he works for like a Sotheby's, style premier auction house with unique bespoke items. And yeah, he just does his job, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, he's a classic, well-to-do upper crust auctioneer. He's obviously very good. He works for Sotheby's, which is a famous
Sotheby's, yeah. Yep.
Auction house in New York. It might be in other places, but I do know that it's in New York. I couldn't tell. The one thing that I just wanted to talk about slightly briefly is that I couldn't tell if he was British or if he had a mid-Atlantic accent, the Frasier type accent.
I think it was mid-Atlantic from what I heard.
Some words sounded a bit more British, some sounded a bit more that mid-Atlantic American, but given where he is and the clientele he is auctioning off items for, probably the mid-Atlantic accent. And he very obviously flirts with Sue Ellen Mischke. He calls her a shapely woman. She looks very, very appreciative of that.
And then calls Elaine the dark-haired woman in the middle row.
Just the dark-haired person, not even
the dark-haired person. You're right, not even woman.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I really didn't have anything else about him. I mean, yeah, he just kind of did his job. He was very, high and mighty and sooty and stuff and snooty. And yeah, he was just doing his job. He's used to selling off once-off items or special items.
Yeah, definitely. Just very, very typical.
Yeah. Should we talk about Detective McMahon for a little bit? Sure. He's played by Nicholas Melee. He's known for A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and The Goodbye Girl. And Jerry asks the detective, he says, do you deal with cases like this all the time? And he says, yeah, there's lots of mechanics that actually go rogue and they steal cars and damage them and stuff. So, I feel like he's, that's kind of his forte with detective work. He's obviously worked on a lot of cases, but he probably specializes more in vehicle-related crimes.
Yeah, probably a lot of Grand Theft Auto, a lot of maybe like chop shops, and car theft rings, like maybe counterfeit parts, and also, psychotic mechanics stealing cars.
I feel like also like Tony and even Putty, they have backgrounds in, like being a mechanic for cars. So I feel like Detective McMahon's probably grown up again around cars. Like maybe his dad was a mechanic or, maybe he did a bit of mechanic work in his young age. And and then he went into police work and he found out there's lots of, it's almost like an epidemic of mechanics, going crazy with cars. It's almost like epidemic levels. And they needed someone with the experience because he can identify different parts of a car, He can just say them off by heart, and he can determine which model of car it is based on the paint.
Yeah, he's got the technical knowledge. Maybe he had his car stolen by an emotional mechanic or a psychotic mechanic, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to try and put a stop to this.
and he's become a grisly detective, trying to get his revenge once and for all.
Yeah, I don't think he's fully grizzled, but he's definitely on the way to be. He's sort of half grizzled because he's actually quite friendly to Gary. He says to him, I need to ask you a few questions, and I'm sorry that if it's a sore point. So the fact that he apologizes, look, I'm sorry that this might be a bit difficult, makes me think that he's not fully grizzled yet, but he's definitely on the way.
He's still empathetic.
Yeah. He still cares, and he still wants to, try and soften the blow a bit. But he's definitely got that grizzled energy as well. He's definitely seen some shit.
Oh yeah, he's seen lots of oil spilt on the ground.
Yeah,
lots of wrecks, lots of car wrecks. It'd be awful the shit he sees.
Yeah, he wakes up, in a cold sweat after a horrible dream of a chop shop or something.
Oh man, jeez. So we should all take good care of, or better care of, our cars, right?
I think so. Or just vet our mechanics before taking our cars to them.
Yeah, well, lucky my mechanic's pretty good. Do you have a good one?
Well, I just go to the company I bought it from. So.
Oh, the dealer. Yeah. Okay,
yeah, the
cool.
dealer. So far, so good,
So far, so good. You haven't had any Tonys there yet?
Well, not that I know of. I mean, they could have taken it for a joyride and returned it.
Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off with the Ferrari.
Yeah, I'll have to, make note of my my taco when I drop it off. If it's got an extra 200 Ks on it, something's up.
Something's happened, and it smells like burritos and booze and stuff. Then there's trouble.
Yeah, sex and burritos.
That's right. Two very good things. Anyway, do you have any other notes on the Detective McMahon?
No, that's it.
Let's talk about the farmer, played by Rance Howard, and he was actually featured on the podcast in The Glasses a few weeks ago, so we've already talked about his acting credits. He is, of course, the father of Ron and Clinton Howard. Clinton, who has appeared on Seinfeld, he was the Smog Strangler in Season 4's The Trip, Parts 1 and 2, and so Rance Howard, he was a blind man a few weeks ago, but now he's a farmer.
Yeah, he is a farmer in Ohio. That's where Newman gets kicked out of the mail truck.
Gets booted by Kramer, yeah, because of the weight.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's been a farmer there his whole life. He looks very, salt of the earth. He looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say he's probably either a wheat farmer or a soybean farmer. Or maybe even corn, actually.
I think it was corn. Yeah, I think Newman and Kramer ran through the cornfields. So I'll assume. Yeah, I think it was corn. Yeah, so I assume he's a corn farmer. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the biggest crops. I mean, that's one of the biggest crops grown in America, but it's especially massive in Ohio. So and obviously you see corn, so that more or less confirms it.
That's it. Yeah, so he's been growing corn, and corn's very very popular thing, crop. That's the word. Popular thing.
Very insightful. You should be. Yeah. You should be like an agricultural analyst. Well, corn is very good, and people eat it, and it be grown because of.
I should have a T-shirt printed. Corn is a thing.
Corn is a thing.
That's it.
An analyst who points out the basic facts, like, wheat makes bread, and people enjoy it, and it's grown because of that. So that's my take on this week's wheat market.
Yes, and that's my Year 12 oral presentation.
Yes,
for VCE.
Yeah. Wheat is a plant, and it gets turned into bread, and bread is good.
That's right. It's not wheat, it's wheat. Wheat. Wheat.
Wheat.
Yeah, so the farmer, very strict regarding his daughter. His daughter obviously, we'll talk about Susie in a minute, but he doesn't want her to, mix with men. I'm guessing not many single men, go to the farm too often. And he's very protective, probably locks his daughter in the bedroom, so she doesn't sneak out or anything.
That's a bit dark, but
not literally, but I mean, he's just very protective. Obviously, because he knows that she's a very, beautiful young woman, and he doesn't want any trouble.
Yeah, I would say that maybe he's religious or quite conservative, and he doesn't think that, his daughter is deserving of a man until he approves of said man.
Yes.
I would assume that he would only approve of someone who's like him, like a salt of the earth farmer, a local, an honorable conservative kind of man, I guess.
Yeah, because even when he says to Newman, because he says he's got to help him with some farm work tomorrow morning, as kind of like pseudo payment for keeping Newman for the night. Even Newman says, I'm not really good with that kind of stuff. You can see he kind of looks disappointed.
Yeah, I think he thinks that, men are supposed to be not necessarily farmers, but are supposed to be handy and
good with labor.
That sort of, blue collar is, his version of masculinity, I guess.
And Newman literally had a blue collar there. He had his postal uniform on, which is a blue collar. So he's a literal blue collar worker. So that's he should have done it.
Well, blue collar or not literally, I think you could call being a postie, as we call them, a blue collar worker anyway. It's definitely a working class job. So
for sure, it's always nice to have a big, strong man in in the house. Those mailbags, they can get pretty heavy.
I like how when he says that, Newman, he kind of puffs his chest up a bit.
He does, yeah. He becomes more confident.
Yeah, he puts his shoulders back and puts his pecs out a bit just to be a bit more masculine.
Yeah, to really, he's like a peacock.
Yeah. Thinking that, I mean, she's already into him, but he's just more. Yeah, he gets that smooth kind of Newman going. That
Oh, he does. Smooth and silky. Should we talk about Susie then while we're talking about her?
I'm sure.
Oh, do you have anything else about the farmer? First of all,
no, not really. I just, like I said, just old school, salt of the earth, conservative, lifelong farmer. Yeah, and just simple man who wants a similar man to him for his daughter.
And when he catches Newman making out with Susie, he gets the shotgun and he starts firing. He even fires in the house. I mean, that's pretty full on. He really wants to kill him.
Yeah, I think like you said, he's very protective. Another instance of possession.
Yeah, another possessiveness. Yeah, and possession, exactly. It's definitely a running theme in the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the fact he fires off, a buckshot in the house, to try and get Newman, that's, his anger's just taken over.
Yeah, I mean, if he shot him, that would be, potentially murder.
Yeah, and he actually fires. Like, even when Newman and Kramer sees Newman out the front and they run through the cornfield, he takes it. Like, do you think maybe he took like a shot directly at him, or do you think maybe it was like a warning shot in the air when they ran off?
I don't know. I feel like if he was just warning him, he wouldn't need to pull the trigger. He could just point a gun at him. That would have the same effect. He
actually wanted to shoot him dead. That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he's aiming the barrel at Newman too when they run off.
Yeah.
So
like I said, if he was just warning him and he didn't actually want to harm him, he wouldn't need to pull a trigger because most people would comply just from having a gun pointed at them.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Newman would put his hands up, but no, he was as attempted murder. Goodness me, crazy.
Oh,
well, Newman survived.
They're different, those corn farming Ohioans.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you are a Ohioan corn farmer, let us know. Or if you know a corn farmer or live with one, I'd love to hear. Like, would you just, fire rounds at someone who tried to touch your daughter?
No. I mean, that's, it's different how we do things over here. But I don't know, maybe we're the outsiders, maybe we're weirdos.
Maybe. Anyway, that's a debate for another day. Susie, she was played by Karen Lynn Scott. She's known for appearing in Martin, Hardball, and Sledgehammer. Never heard of any of those movies. So Susie, I mean, she's probably, she's very promiscuous, and she doesn't have too many men her age probably turning up to the farm. She's used to seeing her dad, or maybe she's tried to have a fling with a couple of, younger farm hands who've, gone on the farm, and then, the dad's either shot them or, scared them away. So when she sees a guy around her age, she, no matter, even if it's Newman or someone like Newman, she gets really turned on.
Yeah, I think she's just wanting to meet a man. She's probably got unsatisfied sexual desires, and everyone's attracted to different people. But I feel like to be instantly attracted to Newman says a lot about how many men she doesn't see.
That's right. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. So she sees Newman and then, she's like, oh, he's really sexy.
Yeah. I think it's just because her experience with men up until Newman has been very little. She just hasn't had a lot of men around her, to sort of have a variety of who she might or might not find attractive.
Yeah. And it's crazy because the farmer, gives them a warning, and then, they still give in, they give in to their desires and they start making out off screen.
Yeah. Well, I think, she does have that sort of like innocent, naive quality about her. She's like sort of giving him, there's a word for it, but like the big eyes, there's a word for the gooey eyes or the
doe eyes,
anyway.
The doe eyes.
Doe-eyed
look. Yeah.
And she's sort of like almost like not pornographic, but like, it's that like stereotypical, like innocent, naive, like, oh, I'm just a innocent woman and I need a big, strong man to, she definitely plays on that. I don't think she's doing it intentionally. I think that's who she is. But
that's who she is. Yeah. She's naive.
She's very, attractive and enticing to men.
Oh, she is. Yeah. For sure. And I feel like it's not the first time she's tried to hook up with a guy. Like, I'm guessing there's probably been like several farm hands, younger farm hands about their age. And, they probably had a fling and, maybe, the dad caught him. And that's probably why there's no farm hands there when Newman rocks up.
Yeah, definitely. That's why he needs a hand, milking the cows, because he's scared off all the real farm hands.
Yeah, the real, like the tough laborers, the tough labor hands.
Yeah, the legit guys. And Newman's like, I don't know how to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and then Susie, she says, I love him. Goodbye, Norman. So she understands, obviously, even though she loves Newman or Norman, she probably will never see him again.
Yeah. It's another love go on forever.
Yes, and hopefully she did find love eventually.
I think she did.
Yeah, I think she did. Anyway, do you have any other notes on Susie?
No, that's it. That's all I've got on any of the secondaries.
I think before we go to a final break, I think we should touch on Wilhelm in this episode, because we see he's starting to lose his marbles, and it's kind of implied that he talked up the project to Steinbrenner, and George was meant to do it. But I feel like Wilhelm wrote the entire project, but it was probably just all like disturbed rambling. And then he probably said to Steinbrenner, "This is George's project," and George wrote this, and Steinbrenner read and goes, "Oh my God, this guy's sick. I need to put him in a mental hospital."
Yeah,
I think that's what's implied. Like Wilhelm wrote the project.
Yeah, I think that is what's implied, because he starts forgetting things. He doesn't remember that they've already had dinner, and that's something about watering the plants.
Oh, the rose bushes, planting the rose bushes. He thought that the gardener did it, and then the wife, then his wife off screen says, "No, you did it." It's like, oh, okay, cool.
With Wilhelm, he's not only losing his memory, but he's kind of losing, I guess, a connection to reality. It's kind of implied that he's not just forgetting that he wrote a report, but like you said, the report that he wrote is obviously disturbing enough to Steinbrenner to, have him institutionalized. But saying that, to give a bit of credit, I guess, to Wilhelm, I'm sure that the report that he read was a bit all over the place, but Steinbrenner does tend to overreact and jump to ridiculous conclusions based on not much. So maybe the report was a bit crazy, but not so crazy that anyone else would have had him committed. Steinbrenner. That's
true. Yeah, he does over-exaggerate everything. He catastrophizes lots of things. That's true.
He takes something small and runs with it. So I'm guessing the report was a bit wacky, but not so wacky that he would need to be committed. It wouldn't. Anyone else would have gone, "Oh, this is a bit weird," but not made him call up the white van.
And then the two guys in the white uniforms, Herb and Dan. "This is Herb and Dan. They're going to take good care of you, George."
Take good care of you, George.
Yeah, but no, Wilhelm, like you really see him, and it culminates with Wilhelm joining the Sunshine Cleaning Cult.
Yeah, he's on a slow decline. He's obviously losing his cognitive function pretty rapidly, and it gets to a point where he's completely sucked into a cult.
Yeah, that's it. And then his psychosis or his his mental illness takes over, and it kind of peaks at that point.
Yeah, kind of another dark ending for a character.
Very, very much so. Yeah. But yes, no, we do start seeing, and then Wilhelm like inadvertently blames George for the project failure.
Yeah, it's not like he sets George up. It's just, George thinks he got away with it, but it completely, sort of backfires on him, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a way, I'm kind of glad they did that, because, it kind of wraps up the Dina arc, like I mentioned at the start, like the Dina, Dina thinks that George is insane or needs help. And she's actually, when she sees George in the mental institution, she's really happy. She says he's finally getting the help that he needs.
Yeah. She's been pushing for that. And then, he sees her there. Oh, sorry, she sees him there. And she's relieved. And
they took away his belt as well. He's holding up his pants.
Yeah, I mean, belts. Obviously, belts are pretty. They're practical things, but surely you shouldn't wear pants so loose that you can't just stand without them falling down. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, I know, it's true. I can understand why they took the belt away, but you think he'd have tighter pants, but obviously he really relies on that belt.
Maybe he eats big lunches and he likes to, grow into them a bit every lunchtime.
Calzones,
yeah, exactly.
We haven't done that episode yet. That's going to be one of our last ones. Calzone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Sick. I can't wait. Yeah, I think it's like our third or fourth. We've done the schedule for the remaining episodes for the series, and I think Calzone is like third or fourth last. So, that'll be a cracker.
That'll be a good one. All right, that is it for the secondary characters this week. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll find out where this episode sits in order of episodes we've reviewed so far, and whether any of the secondary characters appear in our top 20.
Thanks for coming in, Jerry.
Sure.
I think I know what's going on here, and I just want to hear it from you. But I want you to be straight with me. Don't lie to me, Jerry. You know that motor oil you're putting in there? From one of those quickie lube places, isn't it?
Well, I change it so often.
Jerry,
I come all the way down.
Motor oil is the lifeblood of a car. Okay, you put in a low-grade oil, you can damage vital engine parts.
All right, my friend, out of 161 episodes we have done of Seinfeld on this podcast, where does the Bottle Deposit Parts 1 and 2 sit for you?
It sits at number 39 for me.
Excellent. Number 33 for me.
Yeah, I really like this episode.
Me too.
It's one of the better season 7 episodes, and sometimes a two-parter episode can feel a bit stretched out, but I feel like this was all solid, all really good. There was no filler. Loved the Kramer and Newman storyline. Thought it was tremendous. Loved George, trying to figure out what he needed to do for his project. Loved Elaine and the Sue Ellen Mishke, I guess, little rivalry, and how the golf clubs fitted into Kramer's storyline.
Yeah.
And, the only weak, well, not weak, but the part that I thought was, I guess, the weakest, was actually the Tony storyline. I just didn't really care so much about him as a secondary character. Thought it was an interesting idea, but just, I don't know, it just didn't do much for me.
It was a very dramatic performance in an otherwise, like situational comedy.
Yeah, it was a bit, in a way, he kind of reminded me of Newman, I guess. He was very like theatrical and like totally different character, don't get me wrong, but just his expression, very, very over the top and emotional and intense, kind of like Newman in a way.
Yeah, for sure. For me, like I said, number 33, I feel like this is probably the most cinematic Seinfeld episode. Like I said, because it had like action sequences with the car and the mail truck, Kramer chasing him down. And it's just like, there's also like a crime scene-esque thing with the car. And I don't know, just a lot of things I feel like, like the cinematography of the episode was pretty good. Like you could have passed it off. Like if they fleshed out the story a bit more, like they could have seriously like put it on the big screen, like in the 90s. And that could have been like the Seinfeld movie.
Yeah, it was a bit more epic than most Seinfeld episodes.
Yeah, and just like more like more cinematic, and there's more like tension and stuff in some scenes. And even though it keeps its, obviously it's comedic, it's still comedic at heart. There's still some other elements like of different films that were incorporated, and I really enjoyed it. I liked how scenes like transitioned, so well, and even though I didn't really like Tony much either, but I like how that incorporated into Kramer's and Newman's subplot as well. And I like, I love Newman obviously, and I love how he was almost like one of the main characters in this episode. This is the most I think we've seen Newman in an episode.
Yeah, it's probably the most screen time for Newman in an episode for sure.
It was almost like the core five.
Yeah, no, he played as much of a role as the other four.
Yeah, he did. No, I really enjoyed it, man. Yeah, probably my favorite two-part episode.
Nice. Any of the secondaries appear in your top 20?
No new ones, no. What about you?
No, but shout out to the farmer. I did like him. Again, grumpy old man. Love it.
You love the grumpy old men, like I always say. The curmudgeons.
I do.
Very good. And that was another episode of But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. Thank you so much for listening. We are down to our final episodes of this podcast. And it'll be very sad to finish, but we do have some exciting things coming up later on in the first half of the year, which we will talk about later on. And next week, Steve, we're doing our final season 8 episode, the actual premiere of that season, The Foundation.
Oh, nice. I like this episode a lot.
Yeah, it's a very good one. And it's obviously, one episode after Susan dies in the season 7 finale, The Invitation. So it's the aftermath of Susan's death.
Yeah, and it's a good way for George to not just completely walk away from Susan's death scot-free. He's still got to deal with not only the consequences, but her legacy.
Yeah, and this is the episode, I think, where Kramer kicks some kids' asses in karate.
Oh, yeah, it is too.
It destroys them. I love that scene. He's like 3 times as big as the kids, and he just like flips them over and stuff.
You said it wrong. It's karate.
Oh, karate. My mistake. Karate.
If you want to get in contact with us, you can email bidwabastpodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you want to kick our ass as well.
Yeah, if you want to kick our ass, you can. You can also check us out on social media. All those details are in the show notes. You can listen to all of our podcasts, all of our previous episodes of this podcast on your podcast app of choice. And if you want to rate us or review us, that'd be awesome. And finally, you can support us financially too.
That's right, on PayPal for one-off donations, or on Patreon, patreon.com/bidwabask. And a big thanks to our current patrons as of recording, Holly, Nakia, Jeff, and Neil. So they pay $2 US a month, and they get access to this episode earlier than everyone else. And they get access to unaired episodes of Season 11, our current bonus podcast. That's also on your feed. We're releasing those every Friday, Australian time. And you can also listen to the first 3 seasons of Curbcast, our Curb Your Enthusiasm episode review podcast. So plenty on there. So be sure to jump on if you're keen to support us and get some bonus stuff too.
That's right. And finally, we do have the biggest Seinfeld community online, Seinfeldisms. It's a Facebook group, over 130,000 members now. So jump on Facebook and type in Seinfeldisms and join in on the fun.
Absolutely. My name's Ivan.
I'm Stephen.
And we'll see you next week for The Foundation. You take care of yourselves and each other.